Hey y'all, we are live. Happy, what's today? Tuesday? I think it's Tuesday. Yes. So this is my review for Married to Medicine, Season 11, Episode 10. This is an episode that I have a lot of thoughts on, so get comfortable. And I will say, along with this disclaimer, if you are a fan of Quad, you might be mad at me. But look, I'm just calling it like I see it. I am not a biased reviewer. I'm not like maybe one of your faves that maybe love Miss Quad and all that. But yeah, I don't know. Like she not for me this episode. But yes, let's get into it. That's all I'm saying. But since you're on your way in as I'm reviewing this, like, I'm waiting for the audience to like jump up a little bit. Give me a like, subscribe. It helps me out. I have 15,693 followers, subscribers. I just need 7 more. Get me to the 15.7 mark. We trying to get Chris up to the Sweet 16. At least get me up to Sweet 16 by the time Atlanta comes on. Can we do that? Can we get me about 16,000 by March 9th? I don't know. Anyway, so let's get into this episode. So we're continuing the water relay race amongst the couples. I'm not, gonna recall everything that happened, but this was a fun watch. Simone and Cecil won because, they had the professional athlete on their team. But if you don't count that, then I would say Eugene's team won. Anywho, it was just like a nice little event. Everyone was cordial. And then afterwards, Simone is telling everybody that this evening's activity will be a pool party. Pool party, nothing else. And what I think a pool party is, it involves a pool and people getting in it. But that didn't happen. People got into it, but not a pool. We fast forward to the couples getting ready later in the evening. We're in Sweet Tea and Greg's room. And I just want to point out that Greg said that he's made a decision not to interact with Quad or her new man. Just keep that in mind for later. We're now in Phaedra's room, and her new guy arrives that she met at Sweet Tea's. What was it? It was a how did I just get a blank? The mixer or whatever. The speed dating thing. Yeah. Sorry, y'all. I'm getting old. But yeah, no one knows that he's here. So also keep that in mind. I got a feeling I'm going to be agreeing with you a lot about Quad. My mod is a fan of Quad. Okay. My mod is a fan of Quad. Anyway, why do you care to make your ex-husband jealous? Get a storyline and marry somebody in medicine instead of a car renting gym bro? Damn, Rich the Fish. Damn. I mean, at least let me get up to the shade before you like shit. Well, all right. All right. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. You no longer watch the show, but you just watch for me. I appreciate that. We can always depend on Phaedra to be dressed or barely dressed on vacation. All right, well, let me get a sip of water because that kind of dried my mouth out, that shade. Damn, Rich the Fish. Can I just say, I live in New York and, this gallon-ass water from Target, $1.79, they're always sold out. They're at my local Target, Anyway, I just refuse to pay $3 for a gallon of water. That I'm old school, but yeah, it has to be under $2. Anyway, we then cut to Simone and Heavenly organizing things at the pool before the couples arrive. It looks like it's going to be a game where they're like playing a newlywed style game where you got to like guess what your partner is saying to see if y'all know each other. Simone and Heavenly are laughing because they think Phaedra will be by herself for this game. She then tells Simone that she invited Apollo for some reason, and Phaedra knows, but it's a surprise to everyone else. And I'm just thinking, why? Why is it a surprise for everybody else? But Phaedra knows already. Because if your intentions weren't messy, Dr. Heavenly. Like, there would be no need to be secretive about it. That's just me. And then we also see in the flashback that Apollo says his wife won't be coming. So why is he going on the couples trip? Like, something in the buttermilk ain't clean, y'all. Like, is he just going because of his affiliation with Phaedra? Because, like, it's a couples trip. Like, why is he showing up solo then? Like, if you don't have your wife with you, why are you coming on the couples trip? You're not even a part of this group or show. Like, I can at least see if he had like his spouse with him, but if you're just bringing Apollo, you're just trying to be messy. And I get it, Phaedra's not interesting, but bringing Apollo doesn't make her even more interesting than that. I'm sorry. Like, Phaedra is going to be boring with or without Apollo there. That's what I think. So then, a little later, all the couples are arriving to the pool party, and they see the seats organized in twos, and they realize that this is not actually a pool party. And then some people didn't even get dressed to swim. And I think no one got into the pool this entire episode. Let's see. Although Quad was overly dramatic as usual, trying to give me a stroke, what Sweet Tea and Dr. G tried to give last season but failed. They play these games every year. Dr. Evilly we all know the answers by now. Exactly. Like, you think that the question, how many times a week do y'all have sex? It was 0 for Dr. Jackie in season 2, and it's 0 for Dr. Jackie now in season 11. Same thing goes for Simone, but we'll get to that. Apollo didn't used to be fine, but now with that age and that beard, I can finally see what Andy sees. I think he always been fine. Like, I definitely was drooling over Apollo back in the day, in the season 4 through 6 era. Quad is always doing too much. She does too much unnecessary talking. Why is she aggravating Dr. G if she's so happy with King? Exactly. I mean, at least y'all see what I'm seeing, because on social media, like, you would have think like they did, like they started it. Like, they love Quad so much. And it's just like, why can't we hold Quad accountable? Damn, we almost have 100 people in the room. Make sure you give a ninja a like. I'm going to continue and then get back to y'all's comments. Excuse me. So they are all seated, and we see Dr. Heavenly is hosting while Damon just sits there quite literally like a bump on a log, not saying anything. And I'm just wondering, so they're asking the questions and they're not participating. If I was on this show, no, nah. Like, if I was there, everybody had to be participating. Like, I would have had a third party in to ask the questions. If I got to tell my business, Dr. Heavenly and Dr. Damon Daddy are going to have to tell theirs. I'm tired of it. Like, why is it like they always get away with not disclosing about their marriage, but everyone else is? Like, I feel like they never say anything about that. That is so frustrating, because what Dr. Heavenly likes to do is she puts her marriage on a pedestal above everybody else's marriage. And we know that her marriage isn't perfect. So it's just like, she needs to be able to disclose as well. I don't think that's fair. But I will say, I will be fair, whatever happened, like, for the conflict in this episode, it had nothing to do with Dr. Heavenly. So I'm just like Cecil. Dr. Heavenly had nothing to do with it. She tried to insert herself, but you saw Damon Daddy kind of shut her down a little bit. But anyway, that's my main point. Like, I'm tired of Dr. Heavenly getting off scot-free without telling any of her business. Like, it needs to be a season where it's her turn. I don't know. We 11 seasons in. I don't know. Phaedra and her boo arrive last, and the other couples are gagged, especially Heavenly and Simone. And I'm thinking they weren't expecting being hit with the gotcha as well from Phaedra. It seemed like they wanted her to be there alone with nobody so they can feel superior to her. Because that's the thing I was talking about in the last episode. Like, they love to have this superiority complex to the ladies who don't have a doctor in front of their name. So I'm pretty sure, since Phaedra is like pretty much on an equal playing field when it comes to the coin with these doctors, and no matter how you feel about Phaedra, it is what it is. She got coin. She got that reality TV show coin. But I'm pretty sure they think, well, she ain't got a man. So now she comes up with a man that's finer than their men. And I can see why they're so heated in their confessionals. Trying to say like, oh, you bringing a man and you know Apollo coming? Why did Heavenly say that? That makes no sense. Because initially, Apollo was going to come bring his wife with him. So you knew Phaedra didn't have a date. So what's the difference? What's the difference? Because you were fine with Phaedra being alone and Apollo bringing his wife. So now Apollo, he's coming by himself, allegedly. Because I think in the previews, he brought his wife with him. You were fine with him bringing his wife and Phaedra being alone. So I didn't get that. Now, see, why we got to do this? Like, I can understand not liking someone. Look, I don't like Dr. Heavenly on this show. I still interviewed her. She still gave me a great interview. I appreciate her. But why can't we just, keep feelings and facts separate? That's all. And I'm not trying to put you out there, Mosaic. I'm just saying, like, we can call a spade, and two things can be true. Two things can be true. Anywho, Simone is being shady in her confessional, saying Phaedra would bring a man she hardly knows. So it's a couple's trip. She's bringing a +1. You're very aware that Apollo is coming solo. You don't know Apollo. Like, you have no issue with that. Like, I don't know. Simone is quite the hater this season. And Simone used to be my girl. Look, thank you, Naturally Sadie. Phaedra has never been in debt news. Let's just say that. Messy Toya is now asking, are they in the same room? And they aren't. But the game begins, and I'm just going to recap some of the questions, y'all. I'm not doing all of them. But Quad is clearly cheating for some reason. And I'm just like, is she aware that she's mic'd as well as the camera is on her? So we can see you mouthing or just hear you in general because you have a mic pack on you. You're telling your spouse what to answer. And you're telling him to kiss you just to, because you know who's behind you in this moment. We'll get to that. Speaking of Quad, she's getting more and more hype the more she drinks. Like, she's talking about busting it wide open and, she can't wait to have kids. But we, the audience, knows what she's doing in this moment. Like, she's rubbing it in her ex face, like putting 20 on 10, like even telling King to kiss her. And I'm just like, I'm pretty sure that your husband, like your ex-husband, I'm sorry, like you were in a relationship with him where I think you withheld sex for, I think, more than a year. And the guy wanted kids with you and you denied that. And the thing is, I'm going to say Quad had every reason to deny Dr. G a kid because she didn't want to raise a kid with a man she didn't love in the first place. I don't think she ever loved that man. And I think she was cognizant of that. And I think two things, again, can be true. If she didn't want to give him a baby, that is totally her choice. I'm not faulting her for that. But she knows that irritated Dr. G. Can I get an amen in the chat? Does anybody believe me? Like, does anybody see where I'm talking about, where I'm coming from? So now a question I thought was funny was, how many times a week do you have sex? I was talking about that earlier. Cecil says 0. Curtis says 0. Toya is like once a week. And I'm just like, this doesn't make me want to get married. This doesn't make marriage sound that great. But my question to people in the chat who are married, Please let me know. And if you catch the replay, I would love to know in the comments. This is just a general question to the audience. Like, when you get married, does sex become less of a priority? Is it supposed to be a priority? Now, as a single person who doesn't intend on getting married anytime soon, I'm just thinking, I would think sex is important because I feel like lust is always going to be there, and I don't want to lust anyone else. So I at least want to lust my partner and have like a healthy sex life. So that's what I'm just wondering. Like, I feel like in some couples, sex isn't a priority anymore. And I know some couples like that. But then I know on the other side of the coin that sex is important. So I would love to hear y'all's feedback in the chat or in the comments below. For those of you that are in relationships, like long relationships or married, single people, we already know how you feel. Married people, I want to hear from. So then we get to Quad and her man, and again, they have the same answer. I wonder why. But they say they have sex 15 times a week, which is basically twice a day, plus one. But I'm just like, hey, some couples, some newly couples, they can't keep their hands off of each other. Maybe it is sex twice a day. One before I go to work in the morning and when I come home at night. Fair. 2 times a day. I didn't think that was weird, but then, Quad, she got to add some extra ketchup, extra mayo, some barbecue sauce, some pickles, coleslaw before she puts the bun on top. So she's like, oh yeah, like we have sex more than twice a day. Twice a day. My legs be up. Like, I mean, she didn't do all that, but she has to make it known. And then at this point, everyone is looking at Dr. G, and he is quiet. He looks uncomfortable. Fine, he looks uncomfortable, but no one points it out. And I want to know, do y'all think Quad is lying? Do you think Quad is lying? Sweet Tea, she jokes that, somebody lying here, and Quad turns around and says, multiple times a day. Just like, multiple times a day. I'm just like, Quad, funny. Like, she is too funny. So now Greg and Sweet Tea answer the question, and they say 2 times a week, and they have like, they know they're having fertility issues or whatever. So when they're trying to have a baby, it's probably going to be increased. Quad turns around and tells them that they need to have more sex so they can have a baby soon. Awkward. Pretty awkward. Then continues and says so she can throw her a baby shower. I will be responsible for throwing the baby shower for my ex who I did not end on good terms with. I'm going to hold him a baby shower. Why is she saying all of this? Really? Now, I'm going to give Quad this. Like, if she only said, y'all need to have more sex and stop there, I would have been like, okay, that's fine. Like, y'all need to have more sex. But she kept going. Like, she's laying it on thick with everything. And I'm just like, why? What are you trying to prove? What are you trying to gain from this? Like, I didn't get it. And you see Dr. G, he said he's trying his best not to interact with this woman because I'm pretty sure he knows how their relationship ended. He does not want conflict, so he is not saying anything. But anyway, I'm sure Quad is very aware that kids is a soft spot for Dr. Gray, being that it's something that he always wanted, and she refused to do that for him. Now, before I go on, let me just see what y'all saying, because y'all are opinionated in the comments. Let's see. After 35 years of marriage, it's important, but we just as close, and sex is the cherry on top. Okay. I'm married, over 45. 2 kids under 10. It is important, but you get busy and tired 2, maybe 3 times a week. Real life kicks in, and add week and kids, life can alter things, unfortunately. Well, I wonder about gay couples, though, because the same thing happens with gay couples. I know gay couples that have been together for 10 years and the sex decreases. And I've been told that sex really isn't that, it becomes less of a priority. She was laying on the toppings, like, girl, 16 years in, still important, but not a big emphasis on frequency. Still often and still happens very organically. Okay. You think Quad isn't lying. Okay. I don't think she's lying. Jamaican men be wearing you out every which way they can, but she is doing the most in her answers. Married 25 years. It all depends on the people. Each individual is different. For me, sex is not a priority. Love and respect is. Okay. Quad was out of line for everything. I agree. I'll throw y'all a baby shower, honey. I'll throw that ass in a circle was her exact words. Thank you, Riri. That's her exact words. Like, she was getting a kick out of this, out of antagonizing them. But I will go into what I really think after I finish this review, because there's a lot of things that went on after the conflict happened. King was getting more embarrassed as Quad kept going. 15 times a week was a stretch, and I'm still getting a cycle, so I'm sure Quad is, so that week is out. See, people were trying to say T started it, saying they were lying, but no. Quad got that started talking about the baby shower, just making things weird. Exactly. Because I was just like, Sweet Tea, she was just like, somebody lying. And then, multiple times. And then when they answered, Quad was like, oh, y'all need to have more sex. That's all she had to say. But when you're taking it to babies and then you're throwing them a baby shower, come on. I just, like, you can love Quad and still call her out. I like Quad's antics, but, with those antics come, accountability as well. It was so awkward when she kept going, but she was drunk, so I kind of get it. However, drunk tongue tells no lies, so she definitely wanted him to feel it. I get it. Why offer to throw your ex a baby shower? They don't seem to be friendly. Exactly. And then let's not forget, Quad has been doing this since the last season. Like, she showed up to his ex's baby shower unannounced. And then I think she came up to them when they were at an event trying to pretend like she was good with him, but just faking it. Like, you were faking it the entire time, which shows me that you were just trying to stick it to him. You were. Y'all are commenting so much. Toya was the one who said Quad should throw the shower. Well, Quad, she still ran with it, though. The more Quad's wig/headband started sliding, I knew things were about to get sticky. T wasn't the only one that said she was lying. Exactly. Thank you for bringing that up. But okay, let me finish, y'all. So the looks from the other couples right now are priceless. Again, Greg is trying his best not to say anything. He has been more quiet than Dr. Damon Daddy. He has. Clearly, everyone can see that Quad is pushing this man's buttons. Everybody can see it. Even Simone, she says it in her confessional. But nobody said, Quad, you doing too much. Calm down. Nobody said anything. I don't know. If this was a group of friends, I don't know. I would have called him out. Like, if we all know each other, we've known each other for a decade, I'd be like, Quad, girl, you doing too much. But again, they're filming a reality show. They probably want the conflict. So then the question comes up, I think another one, and now Quad is putting 50 on 10, doesn't even write anything on the board. She is just bragging and peacocking at this point about her current relationship with King. I feel like King hasn't even said 2 words either. It's just all quiet. It's all quiet. And then messy Toya, here she go. She calls out the awkwardness to the group and just brings up Dr. G. She was like, she's like, Quad, Dr. G is right behind you. Which then brings all the attention back to Dr. G, who is just like in the back, just trying to hold it together. But how uncomfortable was this scene, y'all, watching it from home? Could you imagine how it was for the people that are actually there? Like, I felt the uncomfortableness like through the TV. So then Sweet Tea says she's fine when it's all brought up by Toya, like what's going on. And Qua continues to run her mouth, and then she says, I chose to end that marriage. Sweet Tea says, and he wanted the marriage to end too. And Qua was like, oh, so you think? Here we go. Here we go. Like a back and forth starts, and then Greg, he finally speaks, and he says that, well, maybe he didn't want to end the marriage like Quad did because he was willing to fight for his marriage, even though it was probably not the best decision because they both were in a toxic situation, and they both have moved on since then. And I thought that was the most sensible thing he could say, and before he lost it. Because I agree with him. I was just like, well, I think Quad is trying to brag that it was her that wanted to end the marriage with him and leave him. Like, I ended that marriage. And then Dr. G is like, okay, that may be true, but what I was doing was fighting for my marriage, even though in my head, I didn't see the toxicity between us. But we see that our marriage ended and we both moved on. Is that fair, y'all? Is that fair? Okay, I'm just breaking it down. So, again, Quad keeps talking, and people seem aware that she's been drinking a lot at this point. I think Contessa points it out in her confessional. She says in a very patronizingly way that she thinks Sweet Tea is a perfect fit, and I support this marriage. So then Greg says, well, okay, but we don't care what you think. Which I'm like, they shouldn't care what Quad thinks. Like, I don't care about my ex's approval on who I marry now. So thank you, but I don't care what you think. So I was just like, all right, fine. Like, for me in this scene, I'm just like, shut up. Shut up, Quad. Like, you won. You got a man, a fine man that's way finer, and you can give this man a baby. Why don't you worry about that? That's all I'm thinking at this point. But now that little sentence from Greg, after all that Quad has said, and all Greg said was a sentence saying, well, we don't care what you think. So now that just sets her off. Greg, finally had enough of her antics, and Quad says, I don't care what you think. That's the narcissist being revealed. She even gets up out of her seat, y'all. And I'm just like, for what? For what? Why are you peacocking? What do you have to prove, Quad? Miss Quad? And then, I agree with Greg. He said, you got a big fucking mouth. You do. You do. Film at 11. The sky is blue. So then Sweet Tea then says, Quad, saying, as in calm down. Like, calm down. Like, why are you getting up out your seat? Like, why are you giving all this rah, rah, rah? So now, Quad is now going to come for her. And there's a back and forth there, and now Dr. G has officially lost it. He's telling Sweet Tea not to engage to the point of yelling at her. Now, Quad is like, my man would never yell at me like that. Also, we have 200 people in the room. I appreciate y'all on this fine day. Make sure you give a ninja a like if you enjoyed this conversation, if you enjoyed this recap, and if you love it even more, give me a follow. I'm trying to get to Sweet 16 before I cover Atlanta's Sweet 16. But anyway, everyone is just sitting back watching this happen. Dr. G has officially lost his cool, which seems to be what Quad wanted. And a lot of people that was there even said that themselves, that this is what Quad wanted. She wanted, like, she's pushing this man's buttons clearly. We cut to her confessional and she says he was clearly bothered by the presence of having a man, like, of King being there. And then someone then gets up and says, oh, I'm sorry, Simone. My fucking note says someone as Simone. But anyway, Simone then gets up and says the event is over because the hotel is telling them to wrap it up. I'm not sure if it was because of all the hooping and hollering that was going on, but now they just have to cut, the party short, or we don't even know how long the party was. But in this moment, I'm not sure why there was a lot of people laughing at this situation that just occurred. I didn't find this funny. Because if you watch the show from the beginning, since season 1, you know that Quad and Greg, they ended their marriage on really terrible terms to the point where it got dark. And you know where a lot of their beef stems from. So I don't think it's funny at all. Like, it's not even to a point where it's just light shade or whatever, So as they're leaving, no one is holding Quad accountable, even though they know that she was drunk and running her mouth. And she's still talking cash money shit right now. She's like, I traded in that motherfucker to be Miss King. Okay. I mean, I hope he marries you, girl. I really hope it, since you're clearly putting all your eggs in one basket. No pun intended. We see Greg and Sweet Tea head to their room, and Greg is now mad at Sweet Tea for engaging with Quad, which I thought wasn't right at all. This is the point where I was kind of mad at Dr. G because Sweet Tea, again, is just defending herself in this group of ladies that clearly don't fuck with her. He's basically taking out his frustration on her. I feel really bad for Sweet Tea in this moment. I mean, it has been 6 years, I believe, but when all these things go unaddressed and you're like sitting in this moment where it's being in your face right now, it's going to open up old wounds. Like they were never solved. They never moved on, clearly. But yeah, speaking of Sweet Tea, y'all, while I have a bunch of y'all in the chat, I did hit up Sweet Tea in the DMs to see if she would like to come on my channel to have a little discussion. So I'm just waiting on her to get back to me. So we'll see. We shall see, because I know this, just after interviewing Dr. Heavenly, I just been bitten by the bug. Anywho, let's move on. Quad is still talking, y'all. She is still talking. Dr. Mimi, the psychiatrist, remember her? She's trying to calm her down. And again, it just seemed like they're in another situation where Quad just needs to tire herself out before she stops talking. She just just keep on talking until she just tires herself out. So, Chris, your chat is going to be too disrespectful for T for you to interview her. I mean, I'm going to have a mod in the chat, hopefully, to keep the comments respectful. But yeah, we cut to Greg and Sweet Tea in their room. They're arguing. He says he's tired of the negativity. And I'm just like, sir, why are you on the show then? Like, this is all a choice. You signed up on the dotted line. Like, you knew what you were in for, being on the show with your ex and your wife on the same show. You knew this. Like, he tells T he needs to take a walk now. Cut the Sweet Tea confessional, and she says, don't give me advice when you can't follow your own. And I just feel really bad for her. So she goes to Contessa and Toya and explains what's going on. Excuse me. They said Quad was clearly drunk. And also, they knew she was pushing his buttons. And, I'm thinking if that's the case, why not call her out? Especially you, Contessa. Like, aren't you the main person that want people to call out Heavenly, her behavior? But you can't do it for anybody else? Anyway, and y'all know I like Contessa, but, again, I hold everybody accountable. Cut to Heavenly and Jackie and their men discussing what happened. Damon and Curtis, this is the most we've ever heard from them. Like, this is a crazy scene right here. They're saying that they can understand why Greg was upset, and they too probably couldn't handle it if they were in his position. Damon said he would have left, and not, left the trip early. And then Curtis, he goes a step above that and says, well, I wouldn't even came back to this group, which means he wouldn't even came back on the show. And then Jackie agrees with him. So now I want to point out that wasn't Sweet Tea courted to be on this show because Greg got remarried? Because look, Greg is a part of Medicine, right? Married to Medicine, the title of the show. Quad was the one that was pretty much off the show at this point because she was kicked out of Napa. She was pretty much a friend to the show. Sweet Tea was just already integrated in the group because Greg already had a relationship with all the men. So he just brought his wife there. They're married. Sweet Tea, no matter how much y'all dislike her, she is married to Medicine. Quad is not. It is what it is. So yeah, also it was Jackie and Heavenly that pushed for Sweet Tea to be on the show in the first place. So yeah, until Quad came back full time, that's when, she's now, with somebody. But again, he's not married to Medicine, but they're just keeping Quad on the show. And at that point, that's when Dr. G could have made the issue, well, I don't want to be on this show anymore. But he chose to. Anyway, the credits are rolling. And we see Sweet Tea trying to connect with Greg. And it goes to voicemail. And that is where the episode ends, y'all. That is where the episode ends. This was a good-ass episode. And I'm just like, now everybody's agreeing with me that it was a good episode. And I've been saying in the beginning that Married to Medicine, they like to lay the groundwork for, into the middle of the season. Let them cook. So now we're dealing with the conflict in the middle of the season. And that's why we got such a good mid-season trailer. Anyway, I'm gonna fight for Married to Medicine because they are the most consistent show on Bravo, no matter how much some of these women get on my goddamn nerves. But yeah, I would give this episode a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10, not a perfect 10. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Y'all let me know what y'all think. What would y'all rate the show? Well, this episode. Now, I'm going to, before I get into my final thoughts on this episode, I want to read some of y'all's thoughts. I appreciate also the feedback in the chat. Oh, let's see. Blossom Mind, I should tape my interview with Sweet Tea. I guess I could do that. That's a good idea, actually. I just feel like it gives me, as a YouTuber, a personal challenge where I could do this live and off the dome. I feel like I want there to be some mistakes. I don't want to curate an interview to be perfect because I feel like I set myself back when I try to be a perfectionist. Because I'm going to give y'all a little tea. I was thinking about stepping away if I had to start editing all the time again. I'm really glad. Shout out to Jay Lee saying, Chris, you have the talent to do a live review. Just try it. And after I tried it, I was just like, you know what? I like this more. And I have time to do more shows now. Anywho, I'll think about it though. When Quad knocked Dr. Mimi head off her shoulder, you were so giggled. I mean, you're talking to a psychiatrist. You're getting free advice from a psychiatrist and you don't want to take it. So that says a lot to me about Quad. Quad needs to get that check. Nobody has 2 hours to waste to hear her Shakespearean monologue. Why you love someone that disrespects you on and off camera? I wouldn't, but anyhow. Who are you talking about? Let's see. Dr. G should leave the show. This Dr. G and Quad drama is bogging the show down so much. It is a plot line that's not worth following and has too much darkness attached to it. I kind of agree, but I feel like the producers, they don't care. They want to get the eyeballs. Like, they don't care about the darkness. They care about the ratings. The ratings. That is, they put that over everybody. The ratings. I have no issues with T. It is strange that you would join a show of women that are closer to your mother's age than complain about the women being old. I agree with that, but the thing is, like, I feel like they need to add some new women to the show, and it's not like she has no connection to any of the ladies. Her connection is Dr. G. Let's see. It is puzzling to me that Jackie and Simone don't support or back up Sweet Tea since they welcomed her with open arms to the show. I don't get it either. Bye, Curtis. He came back after he cheated, then sat Toya on his lap. He knows he don't care for real. What is Curtis doing in the DR? Or should I ask, who is he doing? They just dropped that. But nobody wants to piss off Dr. Jackie. That's the thing. But if Heavenly didn't like Dr. Jackie, if she didn't respect her so much, if she wasn't the face of the show, best believe she would be bringing up Curtis every which way. She'd be like, well, that's why your husband down, messing around in the DR on you. Like, if they weren't cool like that, they weren't buddy-buddy, she would bring up Curtis every which way. Just like how she brings up Dr. G with Sweet Tea, and she brings up, what's his name? Contessa's husband, how she brings up his name all the time. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember her husband's name. Whew. Y'all are really active in the chat. I really appreciate it. If we gonna say that Quad shouldn't be on the show, then most of the housewives shouldn't be on there. Like it or not, Quad brings the extra mess. It was all fun and games last season. Let's see. Sweet Tea only started complaining when the women were mean to her. I agree. What did Dr. G thought was going to happen when he came back to an unpaid gig? They definitely pay the husbands on this show. They already said that. Like, whenever the husbands are included, they pay them. Like on New Jersey, the husbands get paid too. Scott, thank you. Thank y'all. So now let me talk about what I thought. My final thoughts on this episode, because I brought it on Twitter because I just saw so many people on Quad's side. So I said that, let me get this straight. A tipsy Quad chooses to antagonize Sweet Tea and Dr. G, who are clearly trying to avoid interaction that may lead to conflict. But when they finally respond to Quad's antics, they're in the wrong. And on that note, like with that said, isn't Dr. G a psychiatrist? Like the way he responded to Sweet Tea, who was just defending herself, was so out of line and also very suspect because he gets very angry, and I can attest to what Quad was talking about him. I get that. But again, I'm just saying two things can be true. How this started and Dr. G as a person. And like, look, you're saying this. They kept saying Dr. G was jealous, but I didn't get that vibe. Their dynamic is just so toxic that they're around each other long enough. This is the result. I totally agree with this. Because, look, if anything, I feel like Quad is just as pressed as she thinks that, Dr. G is. Like, why are you so concerned? Like you won. Like, no one's gonna say that, Sweet Tea is, well, I don't mean this as shade, y'all. I don't mean this as shade, especially if Sweet Tea decides to come on my show. I'm just saying that I don't see Sweet Tea as being an upgrade per se, but the thing is, it doesn't it doesn't matter if she's an upgrade or not because he's happy. He married someone that will maybe put up with his bullshit, that will give him a child, that actually loves him. Because again, I will stick to this, stand 10 toes down. I don't think Quad ever loved Dr. G. Ever. I don't even think she was attracted to him. I think she was attracted that he was a provider. But yeah, so under that, I want to shout out somebody who said something that I totally agree with. And I want y'all Quad listeners to listen up on this, because I think this basically defines Quad to me. He said that everything Quad does seems to be motivated by the perception that she wants other people to have of her. I totally agree with that. Like the whole peacocking thing, saying, oh, I'm doing much better. I got the house. I got a car. I'm driving a Rolls Royce. Like no one even asked her that, but she wants people to see this perception of her. She wants to make sure that people know that, she's doing good instead of just living her life and moving on. So yeah, shout out to this person who wrote that under my tweet. I could not agree more with that. Yeah, someone said his name is I Am Shockley or something. But yeah, I will repeat it. Everything she does seems to be motivated by the perception she wants other people to have. Look. Maybe Toya too. I didn't exclude Toya from that situation. I'm just saying Quad too. Oh Lord, not you. That's because Dr. G said he been taking care of her since the day he met. I remember that. I've been taking care of her since the day I met her. Oh man. Oh Lord. AKA frontin'. I think I do a really good Dr. G impression. Stop talking to her. I enjoyed this, y'all. So yeah, that is my review, y'all. I really this was a good ass episode because I love having just the conversation because they're just having real storylines here. There was a lot of meat to talk about. So I really appreciate y'all, joining in. But yeah, with that said, because, I could go all day talking. Look out for my next review. It should be, I want to say Beverly Hills is next up. Beverly Hills, and then my 2-part for Salt Lake City, for their reunion. So that's gonna be coming up too. Anywho, y'all, this was fun. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll